Got it.
All right, we are live. Today, we're going to talk about how to find your niche, heal and thrive as a creator with therapy, how to make bank with affiliate marketing, and how to be more persuasive by interviewing Kevin Yee, my friend and pharmacist turned YouTuber and inbound sales strategist. Welcome, everybody, to the Inner Creator with Peter Sue. It's a podcast dedicated to helping creators learn more about the art and business of being a creator. And beyond just sharing the external tools to help you build better videos, audiences, and businesses, we want to help you learn to improve your inner game, your mindset, your confidence, and your emotional well-being. I'm your host, Peter Sue, and I'm a former investment banker at Goldman Sachs, turned singer-songwriter, turned content creator here in San Francisco. And today, our special guest that I have with me is my friend Kevin Yee, and he's a former pharmacist that left his $150,000 salary corporate job to become a YouTuber and start his own sales business, Kaizen Closing, a sales agency that trains sales reps for high ticket sales and helps businesses evangelize their products. One thing I really appreciate about Kevin is how he's all about building authentic relationships. And he teaches all his students how to shift from doing the traditional high sales tactics to actually being helpful problem-solving consultants. And Kevin, he got his start on YouTube while living with Joe from Just Kidding Films, the legendary AAPI sketch comedy YouTube channel. And since then, he's made over 1,000 videos on YouTube. He has over 17,000 subs, a newsletter for sales training, a podcast, and is about to launch even more sales training communities. And we met at Ali Abdal's P2IA, and I think we hit it off because we both share a similar path from starting in corporate and going down this creative path. So Kevin, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Bro, that was such a killer intro, man. I appreciate it. I wouldn't have said all those nice things about myself, but you said it all for me. That's awesome, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I really do think it'll be really fun to just I really respect how you're all about building relationships, even just from P2IA and everything you've done with your channel and your community and like Kaizen and everything. So I think it's going to be really fun for the audience to kind of dive into that today. Just to kick it off, I know watching your videos, you hate EDMers and or you're more into hip hop.
Definitely.
So
Dude,
tell me, what's your favorite rap line?
my favorite rap line, man, there's just so many because you hear about these mumble rappers and then you're like, oh, that sounds cool. You look it up. That's like, dude, what the frick did they say and whatnot? Try and keep it monetized, Peter. I'm looking out for you, man. I would normally swear, but try and keep it monetized. Yeah, man, there's the OG the Tupac lines and whatnot, the Biggie Smalls era, and now there's just funny lines like the Kanye West one takers. I can't think of any that came to mind. I know you gave me this question ahead of time, but I was like, man, I forgot to prepare for this. So we're off to a great start.
Can you freestyle off the dome for us? Give us a break us off Kevin Yee special.
Dude, I always wanted a freestyle, but I couldn't, back in the day, you're mentioning Joe, that JK house and when we're all living together. And dude, we used to have parties and all David So freaking Can. Everybody would just freestyle around the table and stuff. I have some videos about it too. So it's pretty funny.
That's crazy. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, just kicking it off, yeah, we'll definitely talk more about the JK house and how that was. Man, I mean, just freestyling with David So, that'd be crazy. But yeah, man, just taking it all back to the start. I know you're from Boston. Can you just give us a sense, how was it? How were you as a kid growing up? What were you into? Just way back in the day.
It's funny that you're asking me this now because I feel the last year I was really for the last 2 or 3 years, I was just really lost with my content, my business. Do I even want to do what do I even want to do? And it's kind of funny. I was looking at my one of the tips that I forgot where I found it from, but they're saying to look through old photos and try to find common themes. So since I grew up in Boston, I spent 25 years in Boston, went to pharmacy school there and all that. I have a bunch of great friends back there too. I was really into video games a lot. I used to play
Hmm.
SNES all the time. Super Mario RPG is like legit one of my favorite games. So well crafted, great storyline. I used to play SNES. I used to read books a lot. I used to go library and take out like movies all the time from the library because we were broke. But also it was really great. And then like I used to play with Legos a lot too, and really into martial arts and stuff. And it's kind of funny. The few themes that I noticed through those pictures were like I love creating, I love education, and I just love connecting with people. My mom used to say, like, dude, how did you meet this random kid off the street at the park? And dude, I still do that today. Like even today, I connected with like Hamza's like Hamza's like YouTube strategist and like even the owner of Speechify on from Elise Adal's like channel and just spreading good energy out there. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I guess my Boston days, my childhood days, I guess.
That's crazy. So you were always into creating stuff, connecting, like learning. Well,
Yeah.
did you? I know you had a video where you're joking about like young Kevin and what he wanted to do, but did you
Yeah.
have a and it was I'm guessing it wasn't to be OnlyFans because that's where you make the most money. But like, what did you have a childhood dream or like something like, oh, I want to do that?
You know what's really funny? I actually always wanted to be a pharmacist. I was weird. I always wanted to be a pharmacist. I thought I like, people are like astronaut, doctor, and stuff. I think doctor was at one point, but pretty quickly I was like, no, I want to be a pharmacist for some reason, you know?
Well, okay. So at what age did that hit you? Because I think when I was in sixth grade, I wanted to be an optometrist,
Ooh.
and I know it's because I went to get my eyes checked, and my mom was like, this would be a good job. Like, it got good pay. It's very stable, like clean office environment. And then for I think like middle school, I was like, yeah, being an optometrist sounds cool. Like, so I'm curious, like, when did you think of making that dream to be the pharmacist?
Man, I knew that I always wanted to be in healthcare. It's not like I'm not the person who is like, I applied to med school, didn't get into med school, and want to be a pharmacist instead. Like, I've always had those intentions because I don't know, something about pharmacy where you get to build the relationships. That's what I was really attracted to. I was really attracted to the doctor title and stuff, the ego, the Asian ego check, right?
Mhm.
There's that.
Yep.
But I think it was like, I don't know, the work-life balance. And I found that out around like maybe high school. I remember I was like sitting in chemistry class with my friends. And we're like, what? Like, we're starting to choose our colleges and talk about this. And I'm just like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, oh. And my friend's like looking through the back in the day through Google, and he's like, what's the highest paying job? Like with the least amount, like that isn't too stressful. And up popped pharmacist, surprisingly. It's kind of funny.
Well, and I know you were like the number one pharmacy YouTuber for a long time before you changed things up. Like, yeah, could you just
Yeah.
tell us like why did you decide to leave that job? I know you have that video, like why you left like $150,000 corporate job. Because you
Yeah.
just like I think a lot of the audience out there, they're creators. They might be doing
Yeah.
this while working a professional job, while working a job. They might be doing this full time, but
Mm.
yeah, could you just kind of give us a sense of like what was it for you that helped you get like push you through that door, make that change?
Like uh, we're having this podcast at a very unique time. Like some of the people that we're talking about, Vanessa just announced her, like Vanessa Lau. She's like a very popular creator on YouTube. A lot of people look up to her for business. She just stepped away from her 7-figure business and decided to go on a indefinite sabbatical, like a long term break. We don't know when she's coming back, if she's gonna come back, right? And I think like at the time, I was like, when I was a pharmacist, I was taking all these courses on digital marketing, copywriting, YouTube, and stuff. And I was always wanting to do this, but it wasn't until like honestly, my employer found my YouTube channel. They didn't like it. They're super conservative, and they basically fired me for it. Right at the same time, like I asked for FMLA for my dad because he was hospitalized. He went to emergency room, And it was through that whole chaos of like going through so many changes. They were investigating me at the time. I had to fly back to Boston. I was like, I don't have enough time to like deal with this right now. I need to take care of my family. And I was just
Yeah.
telling my dad, I was like, I've been doing this for a long time. Like I've sacrificed so much of my life to do this, and I really don't want to do this anymore. And my father at the time, I mean, we were having conversations about regret. And there's something about, we didn't know it was our last conversation, by the way, but there's something so powerful about that moment where it's like, I was like, hey, dad, what are some regrets that you have in your life? And so, like, one of those moments, like, he didn't really say anything, but you just see it in his eyes. And then I was talking to him and I was like, I've been wanting to leave pharmacy for a while. And I don't know, I just feel so stressed out. Like I might get terminated from my job over something I love doing. I want to dive into it more. I was like, I just feel so stuck. And then he was like, my dad's super conservative, by the way. And he was like, Kevin, whatever you want to do, just do it. You're smart. You're going to figure it out. I believe in you. And I didn't take his advice at first. I started going on other interviews, but that conversation lingered in my head. I think I went on 2 interviews, and I went on my dream interview for the pharmacy job that I always wanted. Like it was to be an advanced practitioner pharmacist. They would train me to do that. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. And I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And that was a pivot. So to be honest, I was too scared to make the transition. Right.
Mhm.
But it's like one of the things that made me so unhappy about pharmacy, because it was turning me into someone that I didn't like. I was getting like really irritated all the time. I wasn't using skills that I loved doing. I think like sometimes like I was having health issues too. Like there's so many consequences of staying in a career that I didn't feel happy with. And I look back at it. I never looked back since stepping away. Yeah, it's been crazy ups and downs, honestly, as a creator.
Mhm.
But I look at the person that I am now today and the person I was 5 years ago. That person 5 years ago would be so proud of me today.
Man, that's powerful that your dad told you that when your last conversation, just like whatever you want to do, just go do it. Like, w- what do you think that Kevin, that pharmacy Kevin, what would he say to you now? Like now he's looking at you and he's like, dang man, you did it. Like, what do you think he's saying right now?
I know what my current self would say. I'd be like, we did it. All those experiences, like they add up, they stack up the skills, the soft skills. But that person, I think that like previous version would just be so proud, just like it's so like it's crazy. At the time, I was like, I could not even fathom making any sort of money online. Like I think I charged my first copywriting. It was actually JK, by the way. This was my first copywriting client.
Oh,
7 series email sequence. They came to me. They're like, can you do this for us? And I'm like, sure, right? I did it. You know how much I invoiced them? $100, right? $100, and they made like 130K off that campaign or some ridiculous amount. I can't remember the exact amount, but I was like, what the heck? This is crazy. So, yeah. So coming from that mindset, and now it's like, wow, you're making a living. Yeah, you're not like Vanessa Lau, Porsche 911 in your driveway, but just you can like, there's clear like exponential growth, and that's something to be so proud of.
yeah, man. I mean, I think when I was just been going through your channel, just like you've literally made over 1,000 videos, and
Mhm.
I think beyond the quantity and like the consistency, pushing through all like the doubts and all the stuff that can derail a creator, right? From making like videos every week, like you've pushed through all that and you've
Yeah.
come out the other end, like in so many different eras. Like I saw like, you were doing it when you were like, you even, just seeing you vlog when you were in pharmacy, like in college about studying pharmacy and you're super young. Like you look like I felt like you look like a mini Phil Wang back then. We all had like we were like all in the Wong Fu, like we
The
love those
thought.
guys kind of
Yeah.
era. And then you push through, like you're in pharmacy, you leave pharmacy,
Mhm.
you got into inbound sales, and you've had like, ups and downs there. You pushed through that. You started Kaizen, and you've opened up. Now you're training all these inbound sales closers. You're working with people like
Yeah.
Vanessa. Like and you're just doing like
Well,
you, man. And I think I just
possibly,
respect it
but
so
then she
much.
left her business. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Thank
but
you.
it's, and then that's one of the big reasons I wanted to chat with you on the podcast, because I feel like, especially for creators, that are people that are creative, but they're in a corporate job, like you were in pharmacy,
Mm,
I was in finance, like,
yeah,
and especially like a lot of Asian Americans, I think it's like especially hard because there's no examples of people doing their thing and being happy and successful at it, like being on a creative entrepreneurial path. So
mm,
it's, yeah, man. Like, I guess just from all what led you into, so we know why you left pharmacy. It was like the work-life balance. You weren't expressing yourself and utilizing, what you're naturally gifted at. Like
yeah.
what got you into YouTube? Like what, yeah, because you clearly have like, I don't think when you say you're not gonna ever stop making videos, I can see you clearly love expressing yourself and helping people. But yeah, like what got you into YouTube, and what keeps you going today?
Yeah, I always tell people like, dude, I'm an extreme extrovert. I think I took that Myers-Briggs thing and I was like really high for extrovert. Um, yeah, I think like, and just to give context, I was I was in college when YouTube just came out. It was 2006. I was a freshman in college. I was like, I'm broke. I don't have a freaking TV, right? So I'm gonna just watch this YouTube on my laptop. And that's how I like came across all these like that's how I came across some of the creators that we were talking about, like Wong Fu, JK, and all that. So I was always really interested, but I justify it like, I don't know how to use a camera. I don't know how to do this, right? But really when I graduated pharmacy school, I didn't have it. Like, I was like, so what's the excuse now, Kevin? I was like, honestly, I don't have an excuse, to be honest, to be completely honest with you, right? And so, like, after living in the JK house, it just really, really inspired me. I was like, I see Joe vlogging. I'm like, that's all he does. It's not that complicated. And I just slowly learned over time where, you know, it's kind of funny how I used to say I don't know how to use cameras, because now people are like hiring me for videography. Like, I suck at videography, by the way. I don't know why, but it's a perception that I know what I'm doing and I just hire out the team to do it for me. But I kind of started this like video agency or this creative agency too by accident, because I live in Vegas now. And so many people are coming in, they need something shot for their content. So that's what I help do, and it's kind of beautiful how it's come like full circle and stuff. But yes, I think it's the connection for YouTube too. Like, I've been able to meet so many cool people. Um, yeah, just connect with like creators, like-minded people. Some of my best friends have come from YouTube. Some of my best business deals have come from YouTube too. It's like that's the one central thing. I used to joke about this all the time on my channel. I haven't talked about it since, but I always say that probably the person I marry is going to come from like YouTube. My next partner is probably going to come from YouTube.
It's not Angela.
No, everybody was like shipping me and
Everyone
Angela
always
for the
asks you,
longest
right?
time. Yeah, where's Angela? I'm like, oh man. Yeah, it's funny.
Well, dude, so you've made like more than 1,000 videos. You have this community that you've helped, like pharmacy people that are trying to consider something bigger than like more authentic to themselves, people that want to
Mm,
get into inbound sales closing. You have that your Kaizen accelerator, and you're helping businesses with their inbound sales. Like, 17,000 subscribers, like, and you have a system, and you're just growing, and now you just keep connecting, building your relationships. And like, I think any new YouTuber will be like, dang, man. And that was, I mean, even when I met you last year at P2A, I was like, dang, man, Kevin's like, he's got it going on. Like, what would you say would be like, say, the top 3 things that helped you to get to this point that you wish you knew when you started as a YouTuber?
it's so interesting. Just so it gives them a little context, right? Like, That is so kind of you to say that, Peter. But on the inside, it's like I'm dying, right? I feel like, oh my God, I pivoted my YouTube channel, I killed it, right? I'm not talking about pharmacy anymore. Like, I'm not getting as many views anymore. Which leads me to like there's certain realizations, right? Like when I was meeting up with the YouTube strategist this morning, he was like, dude, you're so natural on camera. And he's like, how did you get that way? I was like, one, I love talking to people. But two, more importantly, like if you watch my early videos, I was actually very, very nervous. Like my first few videos, actually for a long, long time. It wasn't until I started doing these like kind of reflections, just talking about my
Mm.
day, whatever was on my mind. And some of those videos still get views from like years and years and years ago. But doing that every single day really helped me get better on camera. And so I think there was a phase where I was doing a lot of reps that really, really helped. And I think if I were to start as a new YouTuber these days, you don't even need to post it, but just getting used to talking to a camera. And it's actually very therapeutic. And when I was teaching my initial cohort for sales and stuff and reaching out to people and just connecting with people, that's how I get clients, honestly. They found it so hard because like this is where mindfulness, self-care comes into play too. And this will probably be point two, where like I wish I took a lot more time. Just like I wish something that has been working really well for me is taking a lot more strategy time, sitting down
Mm.
with my thoughts, being very mindful of my energy. And it's just helped me kind of like figure out that purpose. Like when I was scrolling through the photos, like that exercise I was telling you about earlier in the podcast, right? There's a lot of value that just comes from space, like just from having free time in your schedule. And I think that's been like something that would have been really, really helpful, um, knowing as a new YouTuber. And then the third thing is like, okay, once you get really good at talking camera and all that, like focusing on quality, right? Um, Focusing on higher quality videos because I actually have a podcast that I shot that I sent to you before this too, talking about all the mistakes. It's going to probably drop tomorrow. But
It's
one of
gonna
the
be a good one.
mistakes was like it's pretty spicy, dude. It's a spicy take. Like I just did a quick edit in the beginning and everything else is unedited, just raw and real. But yeah, just focusing on quality because I had this realization that I'm not that if I die tomorrow, like last year I had this realization. If I die tomorrow, would I be happy with any of the videos up there? Not really, to be honest with you. I was like, this is my portfolio when I die. This is like really like I feel like none of the videos these days like are reflective of me or like it's not something I'd be proud of. But the videos I'm most proud of are those OG Kevin Yee videos, like in my car, like let's go to a coffee shop and talk. And as I was talking to a YouTube strategist today, because I've significantly increased my production quality, but
Yep.
something's missing. There's something about like increasing quality, which reduces the authenticity and relatability. You know, I call it the P Hub amateur effect. Honestly, there's a
Yep.
reason why it was like one of the most rated top like genres back in the day. It's because like it's that level of intimacy. Like you can feel like, oh, this is realistic. Like this is talking to a really good friend, and it's kind of funny. It's like we met each other in Ali Abdal's. I've seen like join Creator Now, like Iraq. I've joined so many things, but now I'm just like circling back and coming back to myself. And I'm like, this is the content I really, really want to create as a creator. And I'm finding myself again. I'm finding my own voice. I'm building out all these like brand guidelines that make me feel excited to do YouTube again. And I think I'll add a bonus one, like make it fun. It should be fun, not all the time, right? There's like, oh man, taxes. I don't like doing taxes. I don't evade them, but I don't like doing taxes, right? Um, like doing like the rough cuts. Even now we have AI technology which will cut all that for you. But back in the day, we didn't have that. And I was like, oh my God, this freaking sucks, right? But making it fun and just finding different ways to make it fun and just sharing more about my life. And I have so many parts of my life documented. I have the old school vlogs. I have actually a lot of vlogs I never uploaded too, but I go back to those and all my memories are up there. You know, I have vlogs with my dad actually that I never uploaded. It was just too real for me at the time. I was like, I can't do this, you know?
Dang, man. Yeah, this is like all these gems from 1,000 video journey, man. Like, so it's putting in the reps to get comfortable on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And like your last part, like just having fun, giving space for yourself to like think more strategically, like what's your true purpose. And what was the third one? It
Yeah.
was
It was focusing on higher quality videos.
oh yeah,
It's like putting out trash. Trash.
Well, so how do you balance that? If it's a new creator, they got to put in the reps, make a ton of videos, like, but then, you know, I struggle with it. Even me, I get caught up in like making a video every week, and then I don't think about the bigger picture for my channel, for my life. I'm just constantly in the idea, script, shoot, edit, post mode, and then it feels like a hamster wheel. Like, how do you find that space to think a little more broadly?
I put in my Google Calendar. No, I do that, by the way. I do like set periods of time where that's something I noticed that Vanessa allows, like supercharged mastermind event. Everybody at that event like just takes time just to think. And as you talk to like as you watch, like for me, I watch a lot of Colin Samir and watch these interviews. Everybody takes like a lot of time to strategically think, but also not only like the logical side, but the why. Why am I even doing this? Right. And I think that's like insanely important to connect with. Your original question was like, how do you spend time to make it?
Or how do you find that? How do you carve out the space? Because it's so hard to get out of the hamster wheel sometimes.
Yeah. And this brings me to my next point of integration. I can't think, sorry, Naval Ravikant, if you're watching this, man, whoa, dude, Peter, your channel's gonna blow up. But I think about this Naval Ravikant quote, like from the Almanac of Naval Ravikant, not written by him, by the way, written by a super fan. But there's a quote in there where it says like 99% of the stuff you do is like he didn't say like a waste of time, but it's like you won't see the fruits of your labor for it. And so like even when I'm out with friends, I'll capture certain moments, right? And I'll throw it on my Google Drive or Google Photos and whatnot. I'll capture these moments like, oh, man, I'm trying to close this major deal right now. And this is the highest I ever charged, and I'm scared AF. Right? It's like being able to integrate those videos and capture those moments. And so you always have them, but I think like it's kind of like the morning pages, but for video, right? And just documenting those moments. And then you look at those moments, you're just like, huh, I wonder what I was doing like 5 years ago. And you look at it, I was like, oh man, that's where I was. And it builds this like sense of gratitude. I think sometimes we like as creators, when you go through the hamster wheel and you're treating it like how we did in pharmacy, there's these set stations, you're stuck there and you're just like, oh, churning out stuff. But like incorporating play into it. And also like, yeah, doing it out of gratitude. I think that's like a major thing, you know, like look at yourself like a previous version of yourself and how proud would they be?
I like that. Yeah. Just so it's like looking back at things, reflecting, looking at the pictures, feeling the gratitude for the whole journey. Well,
yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more? Like, I think anyone that is like has watched a lot of Asian American like YouTube content, like they'll know JK Films. So for the audience, like they're one of like the funniest sketch comedy groups out of LA, out of California. And you know, as an Asian American, for me, like it was Wong Fu, and then seeing JK, like big influences, you know. And you live with Joe. Like, can you tell us like how you ended up living with him for 3 years, and then like what's a funny memory you have from that era? Because he's a YouTube legend, man. It's crazy.
I have some like X-rated stories, but I'll try to keep it PC. I'll try to think of a PC one. Yeah, it's actually really, really cool because I was a huge fan of like JK and I watched a bit of Wong Fu back in the day. But if you know the difference back when they're doing like a lot of skits, like Wong Fu was like, it hits the feels, it makes me question my relationships. It was like more let me put it PC, right?
Yeah.
JK was like the raunchy, like it's like the raunchy
180.
subreddit and stuff. Yeah, it's like totally different. I more personally for me, I was kind of ratchet, so I used to go more the JK route. Um, so like Bart opened up his gym, Barbell Brigade, and actually no, before that, I used to take dance lessons for popping lessons with Can from Poriotics back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Oh, we're doing lessons." I'm like, "Oh, like it's $10. What? That's cheap." And I love to support him. And so I go, it's just me and Can. There's no one else there. And then all of a sudden Joe walks in with his dog Brown at the time and he's playing on the piano. I was like, oh shoot, I watch a lot of your videos. And Joe was actually like, man, at the time he was just like, oh, cool. And that was it. That was our conversation, right? We barely even talked the first time. But then I started going to barbell, started supporting Bart and stuff. And then what was really cool was Joe was there. And then we started talking about like, oh, like what do you do? I was like telling him I'm actually a pharmacist, but oh, that's really interesting and all that. We started like talking about books. Like he introduced me to Start With Why, Simon Sinek, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Actually, because of Joe, I actually really got into books clearly in the background, right? I have a lot of books.
Mm-hmm.
But that's and then him he had to move out, like he had a situation where he had to move. And basically he's like, hey, you want to be my roommate? And I was like, what the frick, this is random. So I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And so I was paying like double rent at two places at the same time and it was really far away from work for me, but I was like, this is a once, have you ever seen like Doctor Strange and like the Avengers and he's like one. I was like, this is one of those one moments, right? It's like, oh man, because yeah, I was a huge super fan of them, and that's how
Yeah,
that
dude.
happened.
Joe asking you to live with him is like,
So random, right?
well, why do you think he picked
And
you as a roommate? Is it because he's like, oh, he's like a stable pharmacist that's like gonna pay the rent, or is he like gonna be a
probably
fun roommate? Like,
no. He actually Joe like actually created this creator house. Everybody wanted to get more like be a creator, or we had creatives. They want to get more financially stable, and so it was actually a pretty balanced house. And so he organized all that, which was really really cool. Yeah, he actually organized it around my age, like now, like 34, 33, somewhere around there. But it was really cool. We were just like all really good friends. We used to create content in the house, and you're talking about most fun memorable moments. It was actually when we were moving out.
hmm.
Joe was like, oh man, I can't fit this desk in my like truck or whatever. I'm just gonna throw it out. I was like, really? And he was like, actually, let's throw it off the second story. Second floor. And so we literally have video of this, like taking this like desk and like chucking it on the second floor and shattering all over the place. Dude, it was so crazy. It's either that or I came to a JK shoot where they were doing a Valentine's Day skit and Bart was half naked. The fireplace was on and it was all dark. I was like, what the fuck? Oh, sorry. I was like, what the heck? What is it? Why is Bart half naked here? So that's my like those are memorable stories. There's a lot more, but those are two that come to mind.
Yeah, I have a vision board and I actually have JK films on it because
Mm,
one of the things I really respect about them is that they like I'm not into that as much like the crude craziness, but I really respect like they can talk about sex and like topics that are taboo and
mm,
they're just real, Like
yeah.
I definitely want to be more like authentic like that, man. They just put it out there. They're just like, boom, this is me. Like would you say like what did you learn from just being around living with Joe and being in a content house? Like any kind of top lessons that helped you in life or as a creator?
It's really interesting. Well, there's like I think about that house and we're such a diverse like let me put it eccentric personalities, and you start picking up things from eccentric personalities. And it's through the extremities where you actually like kind of like self-reflect and find yourself. Like I don't say mutta every like 2 sentences anymore, right? If you check my old videos, it's like mutta this, mutta that, mutta like mutta s, right? Like we used to say that all the time,
Yeah, that was
or
really
like
funny to see.
rep the Viet accent all the time, and we're it's so funny. It's so funny, dude. But like we used to do that all the time, right? But then like through that experience, I got to figure out like, okay, that's cool, that's Joe. But what is your voice, Kevin? And I've always struggled with having my own vision, my own vision, my own purpose. And I didn't realize until recently, discovering it until more recently, where I had more space, where I offboarded a lot of clients just to like sit with my feelings, go through things like therapy and all that. And just really understand like how our brains work, not only logically, but also the art of like, I mean, it's so beautiful. There's like, I was talking about it on some other podcasts, but I talk about the neuroscience of the woo science. There's actually so much science that supports it. And it's like, man, doing these mindful exercises not only has helped me be a better listener in sales in my business life, but and with other people, but most importantly, the relationship with myself, the relationship that I neglected for so long. And yeah, that's kind of, it's only that thinking time where you get to like reflect on those things.
It's more reflection time. And a quick audience shout out to, if you have any questions in the audience, feel free to put them in the chat. We can see if Kevin will give us the honor of answering them. And shout out to Live Joyfully. What's up? So it's like finding your purpose, kind of finding your own voice, and you made all these videos. Can you tell us like what's your advice for a creator picking their niche? Because you were like the #1 pharmacy YouTuber, you switched, you've expanded. Like, I mean, it's something I still struggle with. It's like, I feel like it's a never ending struggle, but yeah, how did you pick your niche, or like any advice for that?
Yeah. I always like to start with like thinking about like, oh, what would I give advice to myself back in the day? And I think like when I was first starting, I was just like, I need Vanessa Lau's telling me to find a niche right now. Sonny Leonard Doozy's telling me to find my niche down, niche down. And we're just like, man, this is really overwhelming. It's like, find the person you want to marry, Peter, so you can make your parents happy and all that. It's like, that's a lot of pressure. I think something we have to do is like, even from a neuroscience point of view, take ourselves out of that survival state and just put ourselves in a creative or executive state where the juices can flow, and just realize this is a process. You know, it's my like what 7th year on YouTube, 8. I don't remember. I lost track, but it's my 8th year on YouTube, and I only kind of discovered it more recently. And it's through like trying a lot of things. I actually felt a lot of like when I left pharmacy, like left my pharmacy niche, because I wanted to be a full-time like YouTube creator and dive into this business world. I felt really burned by my pharmacy niche. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to commit seppuku if I have to like keep on talking about pharmacy over and over and over again. I can't do it. Right. And I was like, I don't want to ever niche down. So I go on this, like, if you look at like my videos over the last 5 years, it's like, oh, Kevin's talking about treadmills today. Oh, Kevin's talking about random things. Right. But I think that's part of the process is like, could I have been more strategic about it? Yeah. Could I have taken more reflection time for it? Yeah. But it's like also that was part of the process. It was like me dating at the time and finding about like sometimes it's so logical. We're just like thinking, oh, I need to pick XYZ niche, but then we don't really take the time to just see how we're feeling. And like, am I excited to talk about this? Is this something that really like gets me up in the morning? Like for me, I never thought I would even do sales in my whole life, inbound sales strategy and all that. But being able to structure, you know what gets me up in the morning? Knowing that I helped structure my jujitsu coaches like concierge jujitsu concept. And now it's like making 6 figures off jujitsu, which most jujitsu coaches, they barely charge like $100 per hour. They're lucky if they're charging $100 per hour. And now we're building a whole empire on it. that's what wakes me up. It's like we're delivering so much impact in the relationships that we're creating. It's like, ooh, I noticed that. I really like that. Or if you ask me like, oh, tell me about this book, I won't shut up about it. Or I won't shut up about talking, like getting to know someone. It's like all these things are like really, really interesting. And that's kind of how I found my niche eventually. I tried enough things. I didn't only logically think, oh, is this profitable? Right? Is this something I want to talk about for the next like 5 years? I didn't even think about that. I'm like, in this moment, am I proud of it? Is this something I'd be proud of talking about? And just for transparency, I only figured out my niche within the last like half year or a year ago, like where I really doubled down.
So would you say your niche now is more like sales, inbound sales, training, personal development, book summaries, or like, well, how would you kind of?
Yeah, I have it on my wall. So, you know, it's funny. I actually don't really like training salespeople anymore. I was like, I really love working with creators, businesses, entrepreneurs. That's my thing. And it's like sales training for that type of people who hate sales. Like, I hate sales. Like, dude, I love Wolf of Wall Street, but I was like, I never want to be like Jordan Belfort or Leonardo DiCaprio playing those movies. But the things that I love talking about are like kind of like inbound sales strategy. I love talking about product reviews. Product reviews are really, really great. Book reviews. I love talking about books all day. And I do life reflections a lot because I'm pretty introspective these days.
Yeah, I mean your Fat Head CloudLifter one was awesome. I definitely liked
Yeah.
your those tech reviews. Well, so are you glad you switched? Are you glad you switched out of pharmacy? So it's like, because you were asking, am I excited? Am I proud of this? Like, because for someone like, let's say, um, just asking for a friend, but no, but like, what if someone wants to, a new creator has like a topic that would get a lot of views, but they're not as interested in? Would you what's your recommendation for how they should think about that versus
I'll
doing
give
a topic that they're into, but they might not get as many views?
It's really interesting. Hormozy talks about this a lot, where it's like you want to go wide and deep or something like that. So making like content relatable to other people. But you know, I was actually in that a long time ago. What's the highest CPM niche? Personal finance, right? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna start this personal finance niche and all that. Like, because I was always really into personal finance. I love like Ramit Sethi and all that. I used to read
Yeah.
investment books all the time. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna create a YouTube channel on it. So I named it like Kickass Investing. And I actually have a Kickass Investing YouTube channel for that. And I was like, oh my God, if I have to talk about personal finance ever again, I'm gonna commit seppuku. So that's a no-go. And I was just like, it could be really, really profitable, but are you gonna stay in the game long enough to realize it's your ROI?
Got it. So it's like, even if you get a short-term bump, it's not going to be a long-term game you can play.
Yeah.
Interesting. I was curious why you had a free Roth IRA. I was like, oh, I guess Kevin's just super helpful because like everyone could improve their Roth. So now we mystery solved. Well,
Yeah.
like in your How I Create Easy original YouTube video in 3 steps, like that video,
That's
you
old.
talk about struggling between like one for them, one for me, and then you
Yeah.
kind of integrated that by doing personal stories.
Yeah.
How has that been for you? Has that stayed like a great formula for integrating what the audience wants, what you're into? Or have you learned
Ye-
stuff beyond that? Because that's because I struggle with that. I think a lot of our classmates in P2A, like,
Mm.
it's such a struggle, right? It's like integrating those.
Yeah, I'm still learning the balance, but I'm actually going back to that these days. So like I do like one high niche, like super niche, like my short form review is like doing crazy right now. I'm one of the top affiliates for them. And I'm actually in the middle of negotiating like better rates for my affiliates or extra bonuses at the moment. But so that's like one for that's one for my viewers, right? For sure. And the new viewers. That's like I also love talking about like reviews and doing all that, but that's like more for them. The ones that are me are like talking about my personal stories or what I think about like, you know, man, I'm 30, I'm turning 35 and just like next month and I'm just like, man, I feel so behind in my life. And this is why. That's one for me. Because I think about like future Kevin when he's like 40, if I make it to 40, but 40, and like looking back, I'm like, huh, it's so interesting that you're feeling this way. Things are hopefully a lot better at 40, but you know.
Yeah, I really like what you said of like that kind of theme, and then like how you said like if I died tomorrow, would I be proud of my body of work? Like I think that helps put stuff in perspective for me too. It's like okay, maybe I don't lean into the finance money making stuff as much. Like it's a part of who I am, like and what I've done. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like would I be proud? Like I
Yeah.
am like being able to talk to people like you that are creative, building businesses, helping people, like being their authentic selves. Like man, I'd be proud of that, like being around people like that, helping
Yeah.
people like that. It's like,
It's also like, sometimes it doesn't actually have to be the body of work, but the impact of the work too. Right. If I talked
mhm.
about, you know, was I I ran a I'm gonna teach you how to run a OF agency, right? Like I might be proud of all the money I made and stuff like that, but am I really proud of that impact that I'm putting out there? Not like for me personally, no. If I was doing that type of content,
Yeah, it's like, is that
and I
the
made that
energy you want to
mistake
put out
before.
there?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I made that mistake before too. So of putting out content I'm not like very proud of.
Hmm. Yeah, I like when I was doing a lot of TikTok last year, I had a few videos. For me, it was like really good to get like 100,000 views on TikTok. I did it a few times with these like
Mhm,
music videos, and it was fun. But then
mhm,
I was like, man, if this was what I was known for, I don't know. Like if this is the impact, it was really fun and they're cool videos, but it just didn't feel
mhm.
like I was helping people actually feel better about themselves. And then like,
Yeah,
so what you're saying is definitely resonating.
yeah,
Well, this along the personal stories, like I've made
sure.
personal story videos, like why I started a YouTube channel, and then like they do okay. I think I have one that has like 700 views, but like
Yeah.
I guess they don't. I guess because no one knows who I am on YouTube, like they don't really care about my personal story. And I think a lot of new YouTubers might have that similar like kind of phenomenon happen. Like, what's your advice there? Like, don't do personal stories once you have more of an audience built. Like, get more because they'll care more about you. Because everyone says start people come for you for the content first, and then they stick around for the
Mm.
personality. Like, would you any advice there around that?
I think honestly too, like there's a lot of YouTube advice out there, and like for me, I've trialed and error a lot of things, but something I always try to stay cognitive of is like, it's gonna help me in the long run. Is this gonna help me, my mental health? This is gonna help me like emotionally feel good about this too. So yes, from a tactical standpoint, you're right. Probably no one cares about you. Probably you're just like a very new creator, but it's not always that way because I think a lot of people look. One of my most popular videos is like feeling 30 and behind, right? And that's like a very raw video, but it's a lot of people just like resonate with that, resonate with that message and stuff. And so I think there is a way to like share these real raw things, but I think the topics that we have to have are like something I'm thinking about, my head spinning since the YouTube strategy session, but like thinking about how do I talk about topics that draw more emotion, things that people are scared of, things that people are thinking but no one else is saying. I think a lot about that. And those are some of my
Well, yeah,
best
man.
videos.
I
Yeah.
feel like that's also something when I watch your videos, I have so much respect that you're able to open up and go there and be vulnerable. And
Yeah.
you talk about how you felt going bald, like feeling behind 30, mistakes you've made. Like, and I struggle with kind of opening up to that level. Like, how did you get to that? Were you always like that, or how did you become more open and comfortable
Mhm.
sharing in that way?
Man, so just to give a little context, back in high school, people are always like people used to clown on me. They're like, "Oh, look, it's friend zone," right? Because I love talking to people, dude, all the time, right? Or like they're like, "Oh, Kevin likes to do pillow talk at night." They're just like clowning on me, dude. But it's kind of funny. Like I feel like those conversations, like I was always like, I always enjoyed sharing my stories, and I never really had a fear about sharing that much. Like sharing about my personal life. But I can definitely see like how it's bit me in the ass sometimes too, because like your trolls will use that against you and stuff like that, the mistakes you made and all that. And it's like it does take courage to just really be so transparent about how you're feeling and like all that. But in my opinion, it's like those moments is why I get so many comments on the DMs, why I've been able to make so many friends in the DMs too. Cause they might not comment on the video, but on the back end through Instagram, they'll just be like, hey, I just really related to your video. You're just like so honest and stuff. And I just feel like I can trust you. And those are the videos that are just like, okay, real life IRL Kevin and YouTube Kevin are like the same person. And that's what I'm trying to do like with my content these days. Like be really representative of how I am IRL.
Yeah, man. I think one of my, like, when I saw you do while you were going to therapy, especially
Yeah.
as an Asian American, like I know even for me when I talk about therapy with my friends that are Asian American, like everyone's like, there's a stigma. They're like, dude, are you messed up? Are you crazy? Like, even when
Yeah.
I had a roommate and she told me I was interviewing potential candidates to live with me, and I'm like, oh, they have a therapist? I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, even I had the stigma until I actually had like a year of therapy, and it like made me a much better person. Like, how did you I guess what brought you to therapy, and yeah, like what was that journey like?
Yeah. My life was falling apart, dude. Um, so all up until like probably like 2 or 3 years ago, it was pretty recent where I I only got therapy pretty recently, in the last 2 or 3 years. And it's because like my mom, like I had the death of my dad. I still didn't go to therapy after that, but I went to therapy when my mom was like getting major surgery. I thought I was gonna lose my mom. My ex, the girl I was dating, one of the mistakes I let work get in the way, but like the girl I was dating, I just wasn't putting any attention or effort. I was just really lazy with it. She ended up breaking up with me. My business, it wasn't doing too hot because I lost some of my biggest clients and I was so burnt out because I was overworking and I was just in such a survival state. And I was like, it was just so many transitions. And I think that's like honestly the optimal time for therapy, right? Like I was like sometimes like if a friend is really going through it, I'll be like, hey, um, do you mind if I share like something that has really helped me? I want to be very respectful, right? They're like, yeah. I'm like, a few years ago I was going through this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not sure if you ever thought about it, but would you be against doing something like therapy just to help you through the transition? And if you frame it like that, most people are actually pretty down, right? There's a little sales there, by the way. Are you against?
Yeah, I was like,
Like,
ooh, I like that. Like, would
yeah.
you be against?
Okay, give me your credit card. No.
I was like,
Um,
yes. I mean, no. Like, what?
yeah. There's a little psychology there, but like for me, it was just like going through major transitions in my life and you know, I just needed someone who didn't know me, who like wasn't a viewer, who wasn't my friend or anything like that, just to give me honestly, the biggest thing I learned through therapy was like, dude, I am very like avoidant of my feelings. Even to this day, sometimes people ask me, "How are you feeling?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about how I feel right now." Right. But that's how I was. And it's like by not fostering that, building that, nurturing that relationship that we have with ourselves, like all this business stuff, all this creator stuff, like we don't realize how many beliefs that we have that we're just hardwired and we go in endless loops. And then these things become our personality over time, you know? It's just really, really interesting. So as soon as I started labeling my feelings a little bit more, being more aware, I was able
Mhm.
to in sales, I was able to notice feelings too. And I'm like, hey, I noticed a bit of hesitation there. What's on your mind? You know, noticing things like that. Even with my friends, all my relationships, I do that. And you're able to hold space for people too.
God, so you basically started being able to feel more, or being aware of your feelings, labeling them, processing them instead of like repressing them. Yeah, like even with my therapist, we'd be in a session and I'll just intellectualize everything and everything starts coming up. And she's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I noticed you're kind of going up to the head again." And I'm like, "Yeah, like with this attachment style, but with this IBCT and this Gottman communication and this EFT emotional feeling, on the spectrum, I feel like I'm 70% here, but if I do 3 things and then she's like, this is great that you're being thoughtful, but maybe take a deep breath, get back in your body." And then I'll like start crying, like, oh man, like where was that? Like, so that definitely resonates, man, when you're talking about just feeling things and facing those feelings. And
Yeah.
it's cool to hear that it's helped you to be more yourself, and then also just be more emotionally aware with other people too. Well,
Yeah. There's just like so much neuroscience behind it too. And it's like being able to label our feelings will just helps us shift out of the survival state and activate the executive state where we can critically think, we can empathize, and all these great benefits. But what are you saying, Peter? Before I cut you off?
oh yeah, just no, I know. I
Yeah.
think I love, yeah, like thinking from instead of from that scarcity mode, like survival mode, to like
Mhm,
feeling in a state of abundance. Like, how do we
mhm.
decide differently? But like, I
Yeah.
wanted to go into like you mentioned relationships as a creator, and I know sometimes I'll get into workaholic mode and I'm on that hamster wheel with videos. And as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, there's always an infinite amount of stuff you can do, and
Yeah.
it feels like the hamster wheel keeps getting bigger. Like, how did you, I guess, looking back now, how would you tell a new creator how to have healthy relationships while being an entrepreneur?
Like personal, business, or all of the above?
Mm, just in general, like, because you talked about, it's just like what you learn going forward, what you can
Mm.
would apply to like have a healthy relationship while doing your thing.
Actually, when I was thinking about that, I was like, how I approach my business and friends are like the exact same thing. It's like usually, if it's someone I don't know, like someone's work I admire, I literally did this today. Um, where I just go up to them and I'm just like, I'll go through DMs. I'm like, hey, just want to let you know, I just saw your recent video with XYZ. One of the quotes that really resonated with me was this. The one from today, which was it actually sums up everything really, really well. But I sent one to Cliff Weitzman. He was on Ali Abdal's podcast. But basically, it was saying like, if you spread good, and I don't have the exact quote, but if you spread good energy, good things will happen. And I was like, huh, that's really interesting. And like, that's what I try to do. I try to lead from my relationships. I don't try to bring that scarcity mode of, I need this from you. Right. And I think a lot of people come from that self serving type of thing. But a book that comes to mind is something called like The Go Giver. And I always like really appreciate that because it's like leading through giving. And like, um, even when I paid the YouTube consultant today, I was like, a really popular strength coach named Charles Poliquin. He's dead now, but RIP. But he always talked about like when you give people money, you should always ask like, hey, how can I best serve you? And people are just so taken aback by it. They're like, oh wow, no one's ever asked me that. That's when all these like JV things and people trust you because you're not there's this book called The Trusted Advisor, and it talks about the trust formula. There's one on the bottom quotient, it says self-orientation. And the more you're able to remove your self-interest out and just help people just because you love doing it, like people just really can feel it. It's not only like like intellectualized thing, people can feel it. And that's how you build really great connections. I host a lot of events too. Everybody's lonely. No one likes being alone. Everybody wants to be invited to stuff. I hate planning, but I always host IRL events and online events. I invited you to one too.
Yeah, the neuroscience one. Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I found that like even in like the finance tech world, like when I was in venture capital, like, you know, I'd go to like CES or like South by Southwest, all these events, right? And they're like networking events. You're supposed to meet people, but then I kind of learned like you meet so many people, and I meet people that are like, they come up to you, the first thing they do is ask for your business card. You're like, yeah, maybe we can connect. Like, you know, they're like just trying to grab what they can get from you. And then I learned like, oh, like when I actually just approach it, like have fun, connect, see how I can help people. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, it just became way more natural. You just meet like great people, you have a good conversation, and you're like, oh yeah, you invest in music tech. I invest in music tech. I love that stuff. I just went to this one in LA, and we talk about it. And then at the end, they're like, dude, how do we like, what's your email? Like, we should definitely like talk music tech more. Like, you know, it was just so much more natural when
Yeah.
I was like, oh dude, like if you're a music tech, I know like these companies, and I think based on what you told me, maybe you want to talk to them. And then he's like, yeah, dude, what's your email? Let's connect. Like, it's versus I
It's more
went to
natural.
I went to this a CS event, and this entrepreneur came up to me. He's like, hey man, he came up to me and he's like, hey man, I got a really hot deal for you. I'm like, what? He's like, I got a hot deal. It's like, it's going to go soon though, man. And I was like, and then he slid me his card, and I was just like, dude, this is the weirdest interaction ever. And he's like, it's a hot one. You got like jump on it before it's too late. He was using all these weird tactics on me, and it was like, dude,
Yeah.
like, so it's cool what you're saying. Just start with giving the energy you want to receive. Like, and I think that seems like I love how it's so expansive.
Yeah. It's like really leading with the executive state, that empathetic state versus like the survival state, because the energy actually is reflected back. Like when someone's like trying to sell you something you don't really know, yo, Peter, I got this really great deal. And you're like, what the who the hell are you? Right? Like, why? Like, what do you want from me? You feel it instantly, right? It's a visceral change that we feel, you know?
I love that. Lead from the executive state, man. Just I think like I can see myself applying that, not just with building relationships, but just in my content, my life in general. I love that, man.
Yeah.
Like, can you tell us like, well, when I said relationships, I actually meant like with dating, because I think creators, right? Like
Oh,
we can solopreneur workaholics. Like, what's your
yeah.
advice there to have a better balance?
So, yeah, I was clowning on a YouTuber earlier. I'm not going to mention his name, but basically, whatever Kevin Yee does, don't do it. Right? Like, I'm single at 34, and I lost my relationship that was like really great. But no, on a serious note, man, I think about like the Kevin Yee of that time, and I think about the Kevin Yee at that time, and I was just like, man, I neglected that relationship. I didn't lead from a place of gratitude. I was in such a survival state. And given I was going through a lot too, I was going through the death of my dad and all that. But honestly, when I was in that relationship, I just didn't prioritize that person. And now that I look back, I'm just like, I'm not ashamed, right? But I'm like, man, like this could have actually worked out if like, you know, you were a little bit more intentional about it and all that too, and you prioritized it. And it's kind of funny, like a lot of my entrepreneur friends, we go through the same thing. Like a lot of us are actually single and we put work ahead. But I will say there's one moment, like after my ex broke up with me, and I had at the time I was like, I did 20K in deals, and I was like I was supposed to be really, really happy. It's something that I always wanted to do. I surpassed my pharmacy career at that point, or pharmacist salary at that point. I was like, all this is great, but like honestly, what's the point if I don't even have anybody to spend it with? And that was like the hard lesson I learned, you know.
Ooh, looks like you might be freezing up.
Oh,
Oh, there you go.
how about
Yeah.
now?
Oh, I
I was
thought you
just
just got in a super introspective state and started staring off into space. I was like, dang, man, it's deep.
no, drop drop space background. No, I was just saying it's very rare to find someone who's so supportive about that. Like a creator life, entrepreneur life. It's a very lonely path, especially in a world where everybody wants like certainty, wants you to hit these like, can you take care of me? Can you do this? I'm like, you know what? I don't even know what video I want to do next week. Don't bother me. right? Like,
Dude, that is so funny because that's so true. It's like, dude, I don't even know
yeah.
what I'm doing next. Well, what would be an
Yeah.
example of prioritizing your
Mm.
partner, like as a creator? Like just one kind of nugget a listener could kind of like apply. Like, would it be like cutting off shooting your video before like a date night? Like, this kind of a simple thing.
Yeah. I think like, yeah, it's hard for me to give advice on this just because I did such a bad job at my relationships, but it's like, I think about like my schedule these days. I took this from Vanessa, is like having clear containers and set blocks for things, right? And so like the friends that I do notice that have really great relationships, they actually have a set date night and all that, and they prioritize it. I even watch Vanessa too. She spends all her weekends offline. She's not on socials. She's with her friends, with her boyfriend and all that. I think it's something that um I hope like my next relationship I'm a lot more mindful about that. But yeah.
Got it. So carving out personal time, relationship
Yeah.
time, and not letting work take over everything. Well, what did I mean, any cool like lessons you learned from working with Vanessa, being her D-Rock and like videographer for certain events and stuff? Like anything else you learned? Because man,
Yeah.
she's definitely someone I've learned a lot from too.
Yeah. No, realizing that she's not that different from us. It was kind of solidified by another event I went to. I went to a very famous podcast, and we actually went to it was a bunch of like 7 to 8 figure entrepreneur. Like they're pretty big like entrepreneurs, right? And a lot of their businesses are doing like 100 million and all that sort of stuff, right? A lot for me at least. And then we go to strip club. They asked me if I want to go eat pizza. They go to a strip club, and then I see all these like degenerate behaviors come out. I'm like, how these people like as like I'm in there, I'm like reflecting, I'm like, how are these people so successful? And I'm like, oh, they hire people like me who are like who prioritize productivity and stuff. And then I was like, oh, they're not that different. That was the first time. But when I went to Vanessa, we didn't do any of that sort of stuff, but she was very, very normal. The only difference between me and her and stuff is that she had a really great team to help like leverage her strength of strategy, vision. She knew where she would needed to be in the business, and she protected that, and the whole team protected that role.
Mhm.
And then also the other thing I realized from Vanessa too is like um she prioritizes thinking time. That's where I got that from
Mhm.
her and her coach. I met all the people around her. And it's so the last thing I learned from Vanessa is like she's just like she reminds me of myself a little bit. She's very like warm to everyone, and she instills that culture not only with her like team, but also like her the mastermind clients that she had too. And I was like, wow, I'm really not that different. Like maybe I'll get that Porsche 911 even though I don't care about cars one day. No, I'm just kidding. But like just really implementing those same systems in my business and just being like, okay. And now I'm feeling really great about YouTube, honestly, since I'm scaling up my team these days.
Dude, what makes you feel great? Like,
Taking the time to align my vision, understand
yeah.
like kind of like my why, what drives me. Um, just knowing that I'm going to help people, and now like just spending the most time where I love spending in my business too.
Mm, God, it's just doing stuff that lights you up and helping people, and you got clear on it. You're not doing excess noise stuff, and stuff you don't like to do. Well,
Yeah,
like
yeah, and it's
this,
the relationships I build too with people too. It tracks. I mean, dude, I got a whole bunch of cool people just like hitting me up these days because of the content I'm shooting these days. So even though it's not like thousands of views, I don't really care, right? It's like reaching the right people, honestly. But I would like more views, YouTube, if Valgo is listening.
yeah, I like how we were talking the other day, like how you used to chase views with pharmacy videos, but now you're like focused on like the quality of your conversations you have. Man, I love that
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you could get like 100K views with pharmacy people, but do you want to be around that all the time? Like, Would you rather talk to a dude building a business, or like a
Yeah.
businesswoman building like her own mastermind? Like yeah, that hit me, man. Well,
Mm.
you know, on the topic of building relationships, like this is something I kind of struggle with sometimes, is like any advice on how to balance building a relationship like that's a friendship versus like a more transactional relationship. Like, you know, like networking, a lot of it is it's like you help me, I help you. But then I believe it's like when you're making friends and you're actually helping people, and if they don't help you back, it's all good. I
Yeah.
That's how I approach it. But like, how do you kind of think of that? Because it can be hard for people. Like even I had a friend ask me, he's like a young college student. He's like, yeah, man, I feel like kind of transactional when I'm going to these events. Like, yeah, any advice for that?
Although the first thing in my head is like study the neuroscience, guys, like because there's so much science backing this up, which I could go on a whole separate podcast just talking about it. Like I said, I treat a lot of them the same. Like I'm just so fascinated. I think one of the things about like a really easy trick, like there's a few easy tricks to shift in that state. So one of them is I'll give the sexy one first, and I'll give the less sexy one next. Um I think curiosity. It's like, oh, I'm like I think leading with something like, dude, I'm so curious. What made you want to do that? Wait, how did you end up blah blah blah? And this is like something I've kind of that's why I became really good at like consultative selling and stuff and relationship building. It's not even consultative selling, it's like relationship building, trust building through the whole thing, right?
Hmm.
It's like I'm just so curious. And that's a really great way to get us in an executive state because it shows empathy. It turns our thinking brain on and stuff too. Have you ever met a curious person that was like really pissed off at you? Like I've met very, very few.
That's funny.
Maybe
That's funny. That's I
accusatory.
never thought
Yeah.
of this too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe an Asian mom or something like that. Like, why did he do that? I'm like, oh god,
Just like
PTSD.
that stuff.
Anything.
It's funny.
Yeah. Maybe that. But there's that. And then also like, it's easy you know how some people say like, oh, don't get anxious and you get more anxious, right? Or you tell them, hey, you should relax, and you're like, I'm trying to, and you're tense. I think like a lot of times we can control our breathing a lot, and that's something I learned through jujitsu a lot. It's just maintaining our breathing when we're like hyperventilating, and by like talking really really quickly, we're actually making ourselves a lot more anxious. When we take the time, we pause. We're like, oh, interesting. Pause. It might seem like 10 million seconds, like an hour's gone by, right? But it's only 1 second pause. And you're just like, what made you want to do that? And that's like the beauty of those soft skills, right? That you learn in sales or just talking to people in general.
Dude, I love it. So it's not even like going beyond from high pressure sales to like problem solving, being a consultant. It's like actually just building a relationship. So it sounds like you just it's like you're making friends, like whether it's a
Yeah.
client or not. It's just, hmm.
Yeah. I always like even business trend, like even for business, like when I do sales calls and stuff, like there's three things I always kind of focus on is like the therapist, where you're like listening to them. You're not trying to fix their solutions. You're trying to understand them. The second thing is like the consultant, like the business knowledge, the tactical knowledge and all that. Cause you need to know what you're talking about. Like you need to have some credibility. And then
Yeah.
there's the creator, which is like, oh, that's like where you come up with the creative solutions and all that. Sometimes you got to think quick on your feet. And then like you have all those three vibes. I think, oh, that's like the true homie in there. That's the true homie vibe. Like your closest friends, oftentimes your closest friends are your trusted advisors.
I like that TCC therapist creator or therapist consulting creator. I like it, man.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
on the topic of like sales, because I know you are known as the inbound sales closer, like, and you do have Kaizen closing. You're training people. You're helping all these businesses. Like you're buku dollars are being flown around because you're helping people, like businesses, make sales. I guess, what is sales to you, um, and how can creators use that to improve their content and help people more?
Yeah. It's really interesting. The first thing that came up in my mind is just like conversations. Don't even think sales. Just think about conversations. It's just a more structured conversation if you think about it, right? Um, there's a certain order that you go on things. I always tell people like, yo, just treat it like a menu, man. Like you don't have to ask every single question on like that you wrote out. Just choose the ones that you feel. Like when you go to a restaurant, like some people like look at the menu beforehand. No, you go to a restaurant, you look at, oh, what's good, blah, blah, blah. You pick that. That's how I treat it. It relieves a lot of pressure. And then it's really like really understanding people, listening to people. Notice when we our therapists, we really trust them, right? They're not being like, Peter, you should do XYZ. And it's like, oh man, it just throws you back in that survival state because we have the three needs. We have the need to make our own choices, autonomy. That's why we hate traditional salespeople. We have the need to be listened to, right? To be heard, to be understood, right? And the last one is just to be consistent with our beliefs. And that's why like labeling other people's emotions on calls and noticing patterns, body language, incongruencies with their tonality and body language and what they're saying, that reveals quite a bit. And people are able to open up. It gets them thinking about like, oh, I'm thinking like I'm actually really nervous. Why am I actually really nervous like right now? What part of this like we're facilitating that conversation? And it's really like I've heard it somewhere, but people are saying like sales is just like change management. And it's like in my mind, it's like all the only thing I'm doing, I'm not trying to manipulate an outcome. If I close the deal, great. But then I'm just thinking like, how do I get this person to activate their executive state the whole time? Not be in a survival state where they're short
Mm.
thinking or where they're going to fight, flight, or freeze. I want them to really think about the implications of their problem and just go through that and connect with them emotionally because a lot of times I'll be like, is this even worth solving? Like, I don't know. It's like, doesn't sound like it. Like, I'll say those things because that's what a true homie would say a lot of time, but just more business like business
Yeah,
terms and
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
jargon.
No,
Yeah.
I love that approach. You're just trying to be helpful, and you're doing that through curiosity and empathy. And
Mhm.
yeah, I love this. Just like this saying, I love. It's like people don't. It's hard. People don't understand you, or it's easier for people to understand you once they feel understood first. And I think
Yeah.
in sales, like at the startup, when I'm just having a tough conversation, negotiating anything, like just making friend, like just understanding people first goes such a
Yeah.
long way, man. Versus
Yeah.
showing up and throwing up, like asking
Yeah.
questions instead of stating, like it just changes it just makes things so
Pitch
much
me.
easier.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like people are like, pitch me, convince me to do this. I was like, why would I want to do that? Like, why would I want to do that to begin with? I want you to make your own decisions based off your free will, man. You're a smart
Yeah.
person, you know?
Well, like for a creator, I think one thing that I've struggled with, and I think a lot of creators might struggle with, is doing the CTA. Like even for me, and we'll like you're a pro at affiliate marketing, like helping your audience with products you actually love.
Mhm.
And then you also get a referral fee, which helps you to keep making content that helps them. Like, so it's a win-win. Like, any advice for how to talk about CTAs and affiliate links in a way where a creator can be confident that they're helping their audience? Because sometimes I feel like, oh, but I'm getting a fee. Like, and I always just like say I'm getting a fee and it helps me make content that it keeps helping them. But
Yeah.
I feel like self-conscious sometimes.
Those are the money beliefs that we have a lot of times too, right? Sometimes we forget the value that we bring. We're helping people like shorten the decision making process, share our personal experiences. Um, and I think there's real big value in that. And I think like the value is going to look very, very different, right? Like for me, oftentimes I try and negotiate better deals, use my sales skills, negotiation skills to get better deals. That's what I'm intently doing. And like that's what I'm doing these days. But some other people, like I've seen agencies do this for like SaaS models where they're just like, hey, you're going to use this software. Like, I don't have to do this, but like, dude, anybody that uses my affiliate link, I'll give them a 15-minute consultation call, 30-minute consultation call, right? It's building a relationship. I think that's the one thing too. Like a lot of people, like they treat it like I need convert people. And it's like take the pressure off. You're just building a relationship. You're sharing your experience. Like, oh, Peter, you bought the new Tesla. How was that, man? And it's like, oh yeah, if only Tesla had a affiliate link. That's a bad example, but you know, like
Yeah.
it's kind of like that. It's like, oh yeah, dude, I love to support you, and that should be the interaction, right? It's like supporting other creators, supporting more content like this. I've never felt actually I used to feel like really weird about affiliate money and stuff like that. But since it's a win-win for everyone, right? I just share my honest experience with people, share a few nuggets that they would have never thought about. I like research all the discounts these days for people and stuff like that. Like here's some tips and tricks to lower your subscription rate. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they go with me? Because like I'm trying to do what's best for them, and I'm like, dude, if you don't want this, please don't buy this. Please don't waste your money. That's what I did in my short
Yeah.
form affiliate.
Yeah. So it's like mindset wise, it's approach it as you're trying to be helpful. You're curating. You're helping save them time, and it's something you use and really love using. Like tactically, like I guess as a creator, any sense on like what's a good conversion rate to kind of like, or people could kind of think of, is it literally like less than 1% for most people? Like, because I've put up affiliate links and I don't think I've gotten anyone. No one's like really clicked on them.
Maybe this is the time. Click on Peter's affiliate link,
Yeah. Right. By the way,
and
click
ruin
my.
his watch time and ruin his watch time.
Oh,
um,
wait, also is that why people put the link in the description so they don't put it in the video? So you don't have
yeah.
people clicking out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, got
That's
it.
why.
Yeah, no, these are like just nerdy creator questions.
Yeah. Um. So, what was the previous question that you're asking
Oh,
before he
just
asked me
what's a
about
good
the breakout?
conversion rate or like some decent range to think about as a if you're a new creator? Like, is it generally like less than 1%? Is like that's what I've kind of seen, but like,
I don't really know, to be honest. I don't really track like unless it's my own funnel. I don't really track that stuff.
got it.
I just ship it off to the world and just like it's not like I can make any optimizations on the back end and control their funnel or anything like that. It's like
Got it.
whatever. If people like it, then that's what I do.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know you're like you were the top affiliate for Ollie's course for like short form. You're killing it. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, can you give us a sense for creators, especially since a lot of us want to build businesses and know how the money part of it works and how we can keep doing
Mm-hmm.
it? Like, can you give us a sense of, if you're comfortable sharing, how much you make on the affiliates, the AdSense, and any advice on how to do it better and how to monetize better?
Yeah. So something I'm thinking about is like more MRR, right? Like how can I generate like monthly like I prefer monthly subscriptions first of all. Just because they bring more consistent revenue. Um for like my short form affiliates at the moment, I'm bringing in at least like I'll give you one example of one the major one. I'm bringing about 1,000 per month just to do that. Um if not more. And this is my first year it's going to stack up. And so if you did support my short form affiliate, I really appreciate you so much. It
Yeah,
really does
everybody
help
check
me
it.
create.
It's a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah. But that was like a great video. Like one of the things I just try to do is like, what is everything? What is something that every like I wish I knew as a beginner that most people like have questions about and all that, and just like answer it and just make it try to make it entertaining too, right? I try my best to make it entertaining, self deprecating humor and all that sort of stuff too. But anyways, that's like how much I make with one of my affiliates. I mean, course affiliates, I made a few grand with PTYA just doing the ultimate review. And everybody was doing these like short 5-minute ones. I was like, I'm gonna do an hour and try to make it as concise as possible. Burned out my editor. And now Ali's not even doing PTYA anymore. So that video is gonna probably drop off the face of the earth, but it helps so many people, whether they bought it through
Yeah.
my affiliate link or not. I'm just really grateful that I just help people. And like I think sometimes people get so transactional. They're just like, I need to make sure I attribute every single affiliate link. It's like, yeah, you could do that, but like, dude, it's all about building a relationship with someone and just helping people remember that. And
Yeah.
that's how I try to keep it.
Yeah, I like that. It's like get out of the tactical weeds and the conversion rates and just get into the executive function, like just abundance mode,
Yeah.
help people. I love that.
Also, it's really important. This is like super, super important because I used to be an affiliate for ClickFunnels, bro. If you want to find out, like I have a podcast about it. But I'm like, basically, you got to choose like products that you not only love, but it's something that you can look back 5 years from now and just be like, I was actually really proud of that. You know, bad affiliates will burn you, and it's just like not worth it. And at the time, I thought it was a good affiliate, but like, there's more nuances. But we don't have to get into it.
Mm.
But making sure that you use the product, you stand by the product, and all that. And I think the most important thing is, and would I be proud of this brand in 5 years? And that's a question you gotta ask yourself too.
Nice, man. Yeah, I did a slow growth review for Matt's course, and there's no affiliate, but I was like, dude,
Yeah.
I just love. I was like,
That's the
but I
best.
think,
Would you do an affiliate? Would you do a product review like with the affiliate or not? That's another question I
dude,
ask
because the
usually.
people I've met through slow growth, like they're like, dude, I saw your video, and like they're just people I love, like just talking to about like the gimbal, the Pocket 2 they use, like this how they stabilize shots. Like it's, I was like, damn, I had good conversations because of that video. Well,
Yeah.
moving into like the rapid fire.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite piece of gear for YouTube?
Ooh. My SM7B.
With the fat head?
Yeah, with the fat head affiliate link. But for real though, this mic is my favorite by far. I've tried a lot of mics. It's always my favorite. Michael
Yeah,
Jackson
I
sang
like
on
how it
this
gives
mic too, right? Yeah. The bass.
the what?
The bass. The like
Yeah, I
the
like how it gives you that
yeah.
nice warmth, that low end
Yeah.
boom. Um,
Yeah.
favorite book you read last year?
Ooh. The Road to Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. It's about thinking
Okay.
time. So that's why it's all in my head.
Favorite course you took last year? I know you take a lot of courses.
Ooh, I really liked excluding PTYA, probably Christo's Future Pro program. It's not a course, but it's a community.
Okay. And then if your house was burning down, what 3 things would you grab first? Assuming like the people that are in the house are safe.
Ooh, yeah, probably my camera, my GH5, which I want to upgrade. Actually, no, I'll let that burn. I'll probably take my Sony instead.
What the Sony, what's the Sony? The ZV-1?
Yeah, I like the casual ZV-1. I'll probably save that over the GH5, which people are like, "You're crazy!" Like, I'm like, dude, it's portable. I love it.
Wait, the GH5 has better stabilization, right? It's like better for vlogging.
Actually, you know what? I changed my mind. I'm gonna just keep my MacBook Air, dude. That I would save that. At least I can still make money on that, and I have a crappy camera, but I'll make enough like to buy a new camera.
Nice. And if you could jump into a time machine and go to any place in the world, any time in history, who would you talk to for 30 minutes?
Mm. The first person I thought about was like King Leonidas from like Sparta. King Leonidas from
Oh, okay.
Sparta. Like, I love those stories of like courage and stuff, and how do you like stand against something that is so scary, So
Nice, man. And this will be interesting because you're from Boston, you lived in LA, you're in
yeah.
Vegas now. Like In and Out or Shake Shack?
They're different, but I find myself going in and out a lot more. It's great value.
Nice.
It's great value. Like Shake Shack is really good, but then I'm like, did I get my value? Not really, dude.
Yeah, I always say Shake Shack probably might have objectively the better taste, but it's definitely not like
Yeah.
worth it. Like I'd rather have 2 double doubles.
Yeah, same. Like, dude, I'd rather have the double
Yeah.
doubles, dude. It's better value.
And a favorite quote of yours?
Mm. Uh, Man, there's just so many, but the one that comes to mind is like, smart people do dumb things. Smart people do dumb things. How do you reduce the dumb things you do? Thinking time. Keith Cunningham. I'm butchering it, but
Mm,
that's like the paraphrase version.
nice. And like for the final takeaway for this whole interview, like if there's for that creator, that entrepreneur listening out there today, like what is the one thing that you hope that they take away from this whole conversation?
I'm thinking about that quote thing. I want to change it. George Bryant, relationships beat algorithms. And that's the takeaway from today. If there's one thing, like a lot of people think very transactionally and all this sort of stuff. And whether you do sales, business, content creation, instead of thinking like, oh, how do I monetize this and make a crap ton of money? It's like, that's the first thing we think about. But we should take a step back and be like, how do I build a relationship with someone new today? Because whether you realize it or not, when someone watches your video, you're taking them on a customer journey, right? You're building a relationship with them. And when you have relationships with people, they're more willing to buy from you, do business with you, and just get to know you. I think that's the key to a fulfilling career on YouTube.
I love that, man. Relationships beat algorithms. I'm gonna think about that a lot. Thanks for that. Well, if the audience wants to connect with you and learn more about what you're doing, I know you have your personal newsletter, you have your inside sales newsletter, you have Kaizen closing. Like, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, so I have all my links at refugeehustle.com/links. Otherwise, you can always hit me up on the IG DMs.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, thanks so much for taking the time. I know we had a long sprawling conversation, and
Yeah.
man, I learned so much from you. And yeah, I think I think the audience got a lot out of this, and I think what I'm really gonna chew on after this convo is like relationships beat algorithms, approaching like YouTube and just life in general with curiosity, trying to stay in that executive state, like stay in that
Yes.
abundance mindset, and just understand
Yeah.
people and like be helpful. Like I really love that. Like really appreciate that about you. So thank you so much for coming on, and
Yeah.
for the audience,
Thank
thank you
you.
for tuning in. And yeah, thanks again, Ken.
Thank you. Take care.